what happened was he went down with the thing, and the guy who was spotting him couldn't spot him right. He obviously didn't know how to spot him, and the bar crushed his neck.
Oh my goodness!
And this is the guy. He was a big fitness influencer in another country.
Holy smokes!
And it was avoidable. I mean, first of all, from the look of the squat, it doesn't look like the guy was even capable of doing the 450. Like, he probably was like a 300-pound squatter who put 450 on the bar. And the guy who was behind him, spotting him, was when you spot someone in a squat, you get underneath them and you have your hands on their chest and under their arms so you can lift them, so you can almost squat with them. That's how you spot the squat. This guy was pushing on the bar, Chris, like to try to push the bar up.
It's a bent. Yeah.
What is he gonna do? He's gonna press overhead 450. You know, that's how you spot. So the guy obviously had no idea what he was doing to the spotter. So if you're going to get under dangerous weight, you better tell the spotter, if it's not a friend of yours, how to spot you. Because it's very easy to spot someone on squatting. You literally get underneath them and you're like right behind them. And it's like you guys are squatting together. And that's the safe way to do it. And when I see stuff like this happen, it's for such a young guy, it's so avoidable. Oh, my God. I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution. Welcome back, guys, to another exciting episode of Heavy Muscle Radio on this July 24th, 2023 evening. I'm here, of course, with the technician, Chris Aceto. And Chris, we had a big show this coming weekend, or this past weekend, I should say, the IFBB Chicago Pro. And first time having his rookie debut, Justin Shire, who we were very, very high on when he won the NPC Nationals last year, comes in here and wins. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, big. Not shocking. Not too surprising at all. But sometimes it's even though I would say he was probably the favorite coming in.
I don't know about that. I don't think he was. I when people ask me who I liked going into this show, a lot of people are talking about Blessing, obviously, because he had won the New York Pro the year before. But I actually thought that of all the guys on paper, I thought John De La Rosa was
on paper. On paper, but John hadn't competed for a while, so there's always that you couldn't consider him like the favorite simply because rust. You know what I mean? It just simply, he looked super confident up there, but that was you have to factor in like confidence and just like, okay, I haven't competed, and I don't know how long it's been since John's competed. 2 years, 3 years.
And I don't. Do you know why he took off? Did he have an injury or something like that?
I think he did have an injury, but I can't remember what it was. I think the bicep.
He did. Okay. We always kid around about John De La Rosa. You talk about Bob Grushkin saw him when he was like 130 pounds in his house, his basement of his house. He was all natural, and he said, "Oh, you could be an Olympian."
Yes.
And John's won pro shows. He's been on a pro stage. It's funny because I always call him the kid. He's actually the veteran in this lineup. He's probably the oldest guy in the lineup, and I still think he looks great. I just think he has no gaps in his physique. I think his troubling thing that he's always battled with is, can he come in conditioned enough for these shows?
Yeah, he was in good condition here. Just you start to nitpick here, and I don't think it was a runaway for Justin Shire by any means. I think
it's pronounced actually Shire.
Shire.
He schooled me last time I interviewed him, but
Shire. But John's got. They all have. John has his strengths, which is he's round and few gaps, and he just got a rounder look, powerhouse look to him. But it's funny. I looked at the pictures and I thought, okay, this guy looks good here. So and so looks good here. I think what really probably put the show away in my mind. I mean, there's one deciding shot was the most muscular. I think that Justin's most muscular. Just
here it is, right here.
Looks
Justin on the right, Dan in the middle, and then John in the left there.
And John hits it at an angle, which is okay, but it takes away from his width. It's weird.
Yeah, I don't know why he does that. Yeah, I think he'd look better on straight on that shot.
Yeah, but he's losing his width when he like angles himself. It's like saying like, okay, let me turn my body, at a 45-degree angle and try to look big. You can't.
From the videos and the pictures after prejudging, I actually had John winning myself. Now, I did say to myself, he could be a little harder. I did say that. And I did, obviously Stan is the hardest guy in this lineup, but he's just giving up too much size to these other two guys. I actually think that Justin was kind of a compromise because he had enough size, but his conditioning was a little better than John's.
Dave, I think you summed that up like 100% perfectly, because when I just like flipped through the pictures and I said, God, I have John winning. You could nitpick John in terms of condition, but his condition was good. And, I think Justin could have been tighter in certain areas from behind, but from the front, Justin seemed like more, a little bit more tight in certain shots. That's why I asked you, right, Dave, before the show started. I said, you got the score sheets? Because I'd like to see the score sheets, just simply because it seemed like very close between those two. And in fact, you told me it was close between Stan and John. So, I'm not there. I'm looking at even video, and we know the lighting's not good at this show to like highlight people's true condition. So it's hard to like make a perfect assessment when you're watching from 1,500 miles away and looking at an iPhone.
Right. Steve Weinberger was the head judge, so I have a lot of faith in the decision because I think he's a really good judge. So if he's sitting right in that front row, that's going to give him a better view than we have. But according to the scorecards, Justin Shire was a straight unanimous first place with John and Stan kind of sharing the second and third place votes. So. Yep. They thought they were close. Now, I don't know why that was, because I thought John clearly beat Stan, but I think that they really, really liked Stan's conditioning. And, and he was the most conditioned guy on stage. So I can understand how some judges would vote, in favor of him. But obviously the judges, it was a clear-cut first place for Justin Shire.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it was clear-cut, but it's as I always say, you can still have, you can still have 4 judges or 6 judges all give them first, but really struggle with that. Really have
don't forget, Chris. They also throw away the highs and the lows, so there could have been a couple people who had Stan winning or John winning who got thrown out.
To come to that conclusion, you can still come to the conclusion that 6 judges can come to the conclusion. Yeah, Justin Shire won the show, but if you pull them aside after. All 6 could say, or 4 of the 6 could say, at some point in the prejudging, it was really, really close, or, John a little sharper or something, he could have taken it. So it's just because it's all straight ones doesn't mean it was like a cakewalk or it was like a slam dunk.
Yeah. Interestingly, they only had the prejudging scores up. There was no final scores, which is kind of weird, but I don't know. Maybe they just felt they didn't change the score, so they just left it blank. Yeah. But the scorecard, I'll pull the scorecard up here so you can see what I'm talking about. Since we're such technicians nowadays, with all our information,
No, you don't have to put them up. We already said.
No. I wanted to show you. So if you look at the column where it says judging, that's the prejudging. Then the finals doesn't have scores in there. So I'm assuming that the scores were the same, and that's why they didn't fill it in. But usually that's filled in, and then they have like a total, for the. But they didn't do that. So I don't know what the reason was. Probably, like I said, maybe they didn't change anything from prejudging tonight's show.
Yeah.
So, but look, it was a good show. Let me ask you this question: how does John De La Rosa do if he would have competed at the last show last week? Who won that? I can't even remember.
Hassan won that show.
All right. How would he have done against Hassan? Would he have beat him?
I don't know. Probably not. No, because they're both short, and they both have good and not great condition. So
that's why I'm thinking. His conditioning is around the same.
It becomes exclusively a muscle show.
Yeah.
So Hassan hammers him on the most muscular inside chest, and
yeah, it was interesting. I found it. I thought it was an interesting year. Now, two guys that we really expected Chris to see up in. First of all, I want to give complete props to Stan, because Stan brought such good conditioning to the stage, and you know what? That's what you want to see from a bodybuilder up there. You want to see, and he's done it 3 weeks in a row, or close to 3 weeks in a row. Three shows in a row.
Like 5 years in a row.
Yeah, but I'm just saying now he's got a lot more muscle. He still has to grow, but the question is, can he put on enough mass where he's going to be able to, beat guys like De La Rosa or, Shire?
Yeah.
It's going to take a while because he's got a big frame, and he's tall. So.
What's Stan's last name? We don't even dare to say it. We just call him
DeLongo.
Huh?
DeLongo. Stan
DeLongo.
Yeah. I like Stanimal better. I think it's in this day and age, we don't even use nicknames. We just use Instagram handles, right?
Yeah.
You essentially get to make your own nickname nowadays. Whereas in the past, you had to wait for Lonnie Teeper to give you a nickname. I said, Lonnie, I don't have a nickname. I remember I think it was 1996 or something like that.
What did he say?
He looked at me like I was nuts. I said, I don't have a nickname. He's like, Jumbo Palumbo. He just said it off the top of his head. And that was it. like, are you kidding me? You're easy.
Yeah.
The only one that he got stumped on, he could never come up with a nickname for, was Evan Centopani. For some reason, there was no nickname possible for Evan. I don't know why. Now, luckily, there's no one else named Evan.
You'll have to get Lonnie. You know what? You should do an interview with Lonnie, because he hasn't had any quote press for quite a while.
Yeah, we should.
And he's got story. You got to have Lonnie on with Hanson and just go through an hour and a half's worth of nothingness, no prepared show, and just have them talk.
Yeah. Oh, Lonnie can talk for 3 hours, probably.
Oh, of course.
Now, coming into this show, I think there was a lot of hype on Blessing Awadibu.
Yeah.
And even Patrick Moore was getting a lot of, love, because these guys are, good. And what do you think happened to Blessing? Because Blessing, came off the 2 wins last year, one in New York, which was a big one for him. He went to the Olympia. His legs got criticized at the Olympia as being too small. Went back to the drawing board. His legs looked like they gotten bigger, but he just didn't look like he brought the conditioning to the stage. Now, this picture probably looks way better than he really looked on stage, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's probably
I think he just needs to regroup, and I think he just his body weight is too heavy here. It boils down to nothing more than that, because if you look at certain shots, if you have a good eye to be able to look through and imagine what the condition could be, the side chest would have been dominant, the back double would have been extremely dominant, and back lat spread, and front lat spread, and front. Dave, I don't care really about he has good enough legs in shape to have won this show.
Yeah.
And I would argue that, people who he beat, lineups that he beat when he won the 2 shows last year, were deeper than this show, for sure. Go look at the lineups of the people he beat when he won his 2 shows. And there was a lot of depth in there. I mean, he beat Charles Griffin, who was, peeled out of his mind and full as a house. Yeah. And I thought he beat him kind of handily.
Well, to me, his upper body looks like it even got better than it was.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It did get better. The back was ridiculously depth. Yeah. You know what I mean? The traps, the lower back, the mid back.
I think he must have an injury, and to that leg. I just don't think he's not talking about it. Or maybe he has talked about it. I just didn't catch it. But he's got to have something going on with that leg, because it doesn't make sense that the legs are not coming up, because he's a hyper responder, this guy. He grows, you know those kind of bodybuilders. They just, anything they do, they grow. Now, if you can't train the muscle, the way you're supposed to, squatting, whatever, full range motion, that's going to inhibit you. I mean, if you look at Levrone in 92 Olympia, when he placed second, had probably the best legs on stage.
Yeah.
And then he had a knee injury later part of his career, and that's why early 2000s, his legs just were not the legs that we were used to seeing from Levrone. So
yeah,
training is important. You got to be able to train.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on with him. I will say this: he's definitely the most entertaining bodybuilder in the sport right now. I don't go to anyone's Instagram, but I go to his Instagram.
Yeah.
Because I actually enjoy seeing what the latest and greatest is. Jerry Beck, the artist, our friend Jerry.
No.
Jerry did the. Look! You see the shirt I have on? This is a Jerry Beck design of you and I.
I get the guy. I get the Guy Sistinino. Why, bro? I don't even know what it means. I get the guy. I'm sporting your shirt. Go to guysistinino.com. $9.95 free shirt.
Well, anyway, so Jerry Beck is a great artist. I've known him for years, like one of the best, I'd say.
Yeah.
And so he does. He's done a lot of designs for me. I want to show you this design he did for. It's like a Muscle Tech ad because Blessing works for Muscle Tech, and let me pull this up here. Hold on. Watch this. Jerry illustrated this. His friend colored it because Jerry's colorblind. Imagine that being the greatest artist of all time and you can't see color.
Oh, that's really cool.
Watch this. It's for their new pre-workout. Look at that. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
it looks just like him. That's the funny thing. All those pictures, they look just like him.
Yeah. Yeah. Blessing's funny.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I would have, if I were him, I would have taken a whole year off, to be honest with you. Worked on those legs. I know he probably doesn't have the luxury.
The legs don't give me an issue. I mean, I thought they were good when he won. Are they gargantuan? No. Are they good enough, on a front double, front last spread? I think so.
Look at that. He should have looked like this on stage. Watch this. Right? They look pretty big there to me.
Yeah.
I think he'll be back. I think there was a miscalculation in his prep. He definitely was not hard enough, and I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
Look how full he is here.
At the end of the day, that's what the issue was. For me, it was he could have been, he should have been harder, and I didn't look at pictures and say, oh, legs. The first thing you say is like, oh, could have been, should have been harder, not could have been, should have been. Could have is when you were close, right on the edge. But
look, some idiot in the comments writes small calves. They're right. Like people could look at a picture of Ronnie Coleman and find something wrong with Ronnie.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. How
no, not only that, people will say, have you, you should be doing this for your calves.
Right. Yeah, they'll give them routines. They've been training 6 months and they're giving out routines.
Yeah.
When I'm in the gym, I look at some of the horrendous things people do, Chris. I cringe, and every time I can't keep my mouth shut and I try to give advice, I get some kind of a snide remark back from the person, like I know what I'm doing or something like that. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're going to be in traction in 6. This guy was bench pressing on the bench, and every time he would lift and he was lifting a lot of weight. Every time he lifted the weight up, he'd lift his neck off the bench. You ever see people do that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Rather
than keep your head back to support your neck, he was lifting his head up, like violently lifting it up, like to try to almost push the weight up. I said, I've seen this happen. I said, you're gonna really hurt your neck, and you're gonna be, and I said, I don't want to see it happen. Just relax your neck. I'm not sure you're even aware of it. I've been benching for 20 years. He probably the next week he probably blew out his cervicals after doing that. It was so scary, Chris. I have to say something, because if I don't say something and then something happens, then I feel guilty. But now if he fucking breaks his neck, I can give a shit now, because I already told him what I had to say.
No,
I delivered the message.
He'll forget anyway.
Because people do stupid shit in the gym,
that. Maybe if he ruins his neck, he'll think he should have lifted it up further rather than just keep it on the bench. Was it keeping it,
Chris, people do. Did you see this poor kid, 33 years old, the social media guy, Justin Vicky? What happened to him?
I did not. What happened to him, Dave?
Died in the gym. He was squatting. It's a horrible, horrible story. Hold on. He was squatting 450. And I'll play it. It's a terrible video to watch, but I think it's important.
Hey, I'm not even going to watch it. How's that?
No, it's not that. It's not. You got to watch it. You know why? Because it's avoidable. And
I know, but you can tell me.
You got to watch things that are avoidable. You know, it's almost like important. You know.
Yeah, just tell me what happened.
I see people do the stupidest stuff in the gym. Watch this. It's 2 seconds, Chris. Just watch it.
I know, Dave. I'm not into it.
No, he was squatting, and he just, what happened was he went down with the thing, and the guy who was spotting him couldn't spot him right. He obviously didn't know how to spot him, and the bar crushed his neck.
Oh my goodness!
And this is the guy. He was a big fitness influencer in another country.
Holy smokes!
And it was avoidable. I mean, first of all, from the look of the squat, it doesn't look like the guy was even capable of doing the 450. Like he probably was like a 300-pound squatter who put 450 on the bar. And the guy who was behind him, spotting him, was when you spot someone in a squat, you get underneath them and you have your hands on their chest and under their arms so you can lift them, so you can almost squat with them. That's how you spot the squat. This guy was pushing on the bar, Chris, like to try to push the bar up.
Like it's a bent. Yeah.
What is he gonna do? He's gonna press overhead 450. That's how you spot. So the guy obviously had no idea what he was doing in the spotter. So if you're going to get on the dangerous weight, you better tell the spotter, if it's not a friend of yours, how to spot you. Because it's very easy to spot someone on squatting. You literally get underneath them and you're like right behind them. And it's like you guys are squatting together. And that's the safe way to do it. And when I see stuff like this happen, it's for such a young guy, it's so avoidable. Oh, my God.
That's unbelievable.
Guys, please. Ask for a spot.
I thought you were going to say he had like an aneurysm, or he had a stroke, or his blood pressure went
it was just
high or low.
Look, when 450 pounds comes down on the back of your head and your neck snaps forward, you basically snap your spine. You're done. That's it. Over. Can't breathe. You're done. And he was probably better off dying rather than being, paraplegic the rest of his life.
Yeah.
But avoidable. Young person, listen, lifting weights is dangerous. And you guys have to understand that you can't take this stuff. And I've seen people, I've told the story a million times. I was at Bev's gym once. And, Steve has cameras everywhere, Weinberger. He watches, the cameras, make sure people are not leaving weights out and doing stupid shit. And this guy, he looked like he couldn't squat 135 pounds legitimately. He had like 9 plates, 9 45s on each side. You couldn't put another one on there. I don't even know what the weight was on there. It was, and I certainly couldn't do it. I don't think Akeem Williams could do it. And he was about to he got under the weight. And he was no spotter there. He was about to take it off the rack. And I knew exactly what he was going to do. He was going to do one of these like mini reps, like lower the weight like 2 inches. But he probably would have been crushed and to the floor, even just putting that weight on his back, because I don't think I could have held that weight. And I was like 300 something pounds at the time. Steve came running back I've never seen Steve move so fast. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm going to squat this. He goes, "Are you out of your mind?" He goes, "Get that weight off. Take that weight off of here and get out of my gym."
Yeah.
I'll give you your money back. Because it's an accident waiting to happen.
The insurance adjuster would have been there the next day.
Oh my God. Yeah, he would have been sued. Yeah, he would have been sued. And people, I don't know what goes on in the brain. It's like does not compute, because the guys that are actually strong who can lift heavy weights don't do crazy shit like that. You don't see those guys getting hurt. You have powerlifting meets because they're doing extreme weights, but a lot of times these guys, don't really get seriously hurt because there's spotters there, so you can't do great. Even when I would travel, I always told people, don't try to push your maxes unless you really have someone there who's like your training partner, because if you're under a bench press with 500 pounds, and something goes wrong, and there's not many people who in the world who can pull that weight off of you. Maybe if you had 3 spotters there, but not one spotter is not going to take that off you. You're going to get hurt. And so
this is fresh on your mind, and then you see the guy at your gym bench and lifting the neck up.
No, so I always say things. I'm just saying in general, I always say things because if I don't, and the guy, snaps his neck or does something stupid to himself, people are like, oh, did you hear what happened to that guy at the gym? You ever see that guy train? I'll be like, oh, I should have said something. Now, if something happens, at least I open my mouth up, and he knows what he's getting himself into.
Yeah.
So if you do see people doing stupid stuff at the gym, you have every right to go up to them as an expert. Someone, because if you're a competitive bodybuilder, you've been lifting for a number of years, you're an expert. Okay. Yeah. Whether you're certified trainer or not, you're an expert because you do this every single day. And if you see people doing things that are dangerous, because some people do appreciate it. I've gone up to women and corrected their form on stuff, and they were like, oh, thank you. I didn't know how to do this exercise. No one ever taught me anything, or I always thought I saw someone else doing it this way and I copied it. But yeah, there are people that are just, arrogant pricks essentially. And that's fine. At least you said what you had to say. And that's it. This way, if an injury like that if I would have seen that guy doing that exercise, and I knew he was a regular in the gym and he wasn't really, I would have said, are you crazy? And if I would have seen the guy spotting him that way, I would have been horrified. I said something, but they were too busy filming for Instagram, Chris. That's what everyone does nowadays.
That's yeah.
And if you die on Instagram, you get a lot more hits than if you actually lift the weight, unfortunately.
Well, of course. I mean, look how many people are going to go look at it, just from me posting it.
Yeah. Yeah. People say, I have my people send me this stuff. I'm like, oh, no.
I knew you. I was going to ask you. I was going to say, where do you find this date? But I knew you'd say somebody. I didn't even.
Not because
people send it.
It's too many deaths. It's just too much. All right, I can't take it anymore. Everyone's dying, Chris. And when I see stuff like this was avoidable. You know what I mean? It's like crazy. All right, I want to give a big happy birthday. Al Beckles turned 87.
I don't know. Milos would know his exact age. He just back it out of the Niagara Falls Pro Show. His first.
Yeah, Milos Vic. He's not 87. He's actually 85. I have his birthday.
No, because he saw his passport, right? Didn't he say?
I think you're right, Chris. I think you're right.
Milos's first show. It's nuts. Milos's first show, I think, as a pro in the IFBB, I think was Niagara Falls, and Albert Beckles was in it, and
right.
Trying to figure what year it could have been.
I think Beckles won that show, didn't he?
I think so. Mauro Sarni from Italy was in the show too. Maybe it was that year, and I think he had a physique similar to Milos's, and he might have won that year.
Oh,
Milos would know. The thing with Milos is Milos could not only tell you if Al Beckles, which he was in the show, but he could tell you his age, and I guarantee you, Milos could tell you who the top 5 were.
Absolutely. Beckles was supposedly 60 years old when I first started following bodybuilding magazines, and he looked it in the face, but his body didn't look it. It was incredible. So we always talk about who's the best, 50-year-old guy. It had to be Beckles, right?
Look at those arms. Look at those arms.
And those aren't jimmied, Chris, at all.
No. Someone had told me his diet once when I was in California, and it was Dave. It was the dieting for a show was like 3 cans of tuna a day. It was like nothing.
And he probably didn't lose an ounce of muscle either.
No.
That's called genetics. I'm so happy to report that he's alive. We're always reporting when people die.
Yeah.
That's why I figured, you know what? I said 87. I said we should celebrate his life. Hanson's the one who posted. I would have never known.
Hey, why don't you get him on the show? It'd be nice to hear his recollection.
I'd like to see if is he coherent at 80? I don't know what his. I think he is. I think John Hanson interviewed him recently.
I think it'd be a great insight because he competed all the way back with Arnold, and then he stuck around up until he was very competitive up until late 90s. He started to mid 90s, late 90s.
Bodybuilding lifestyle. I remember seeing him. I think at some of the Masters Olympias he was there.
Not to steal John Hanson's thunder, but he had a cousin who was just as good named Darcy Beckles.
Is that true? Or are you making up this?
No, he did. His cousin was phenomenal.
It runs in the family.
I think he won the Mr. International, which was like a pro qualifier at that time.
Chris coming up. You're gonna
Al
like
Beckles in the, was it 84 Olympia, 85 Olympia. See if you can Google Al Beckles 85 Olympia and see how peeled his back was.
Hold on, I'm trying to still pull up.
He wore blue trunks, not to be steal your thunder, John Hanson. And what would Lonnie Teeper nickname him? The grandfather grenade.
Yeah, yes. He probably has a nickname for him, I'm sure. So what was it, 85?
84 or 85 Olympia. Blue trunks he had. He was phenomenal.
I probably know the pictures from the magazines. Can you believe, what's with this Barbie movie? People are going crazy. You think it was like the next like Godfather movie or something like that. This Barbie. People are like all excited about Barbie movies. I mean, I'm sure my kids would like to see it, but I mean, they're acting like it's like a classic.
Because you didn't. That it was produced by the Kardashians. You didn't know that?
No.
No.
Was it?
I made that.
All the pictures up here of the '84 Olympia are in black and white.
Well, you can still see. You can still see his condition probably. 84. I'm trying to think. 84, 85. It was 85 because I think Gaspari.
Oh, 85? Oh.
Gaspari.
I see pictures of Beckles here in '84, but I'm sure he was in that anyway.
84, Haney won. Gaspari
was it? Oh, blue? You said blue?
Yeah, blue trunks. I think he wore.
Hold on. I found the picture. Hold on. Right there, right?
Yep. No.
That's showing.
Yeah, that's showing right there.
Yeah.
What year does that come up as, Dave, with the blue trunk?
85. That's 85.
85. He was dynamite in 85.
You remember the Chris Aceto comes up with the colored trunks that Beckles had
because it left such an impression. I mean, go check out that condition.
Yeah.
See if you can get that up on either videos or
You know what I'm also like really aggravated about is the whole Zuckerberg, Elon Musk thing, the fight they're supposedly having.
Oh yeah,
it's about I find it about as exciting as Mr. G fighting Big Lenny.
Well, I think it might have been Dana White. Someone said that it would be the biggest pay-per-view probably ever.
But isn't that pathetic? Aren't we living like in a pathetic times, like where the people like need to have like
they have to duke it out?
No, but it's like so stupid. Like, do I want to see two little skinny guys fight in the playground? I mean, who gives a shit?
I want to see.
Why do we care about this? Just because they're both billionaires? I mean, it's the dumbest thing of all time.
I want to see Donald Trump and Chris Christie in a pose down because Donald Trump criticized Chris Christie's weight, and Chris Christie said like, "Oh, like you're some type of Adonis."
I'd like to see Bobby Kennedy Jr. Pose down against all of them. He destroyed them all.
Best presidential physique ever.
Oh yeah, absolutely. 69 years old too. This guy.
He won't take a vaccine, but he'll take 250 Sustanon a week.
Yeah, 200.
Yeah,
he's on replacement. He's on replacement. He says. They're who are they just accusing of being? Oh, they're accusing this Logan Paul of being on steroids now. Have you seen this?
No, I didn't see it.
Yeah. What do you think? I mean, do they think he's not going to take steroids? I mean, I don't understand what the. And they're saying it because God forbid the guy takes his shirt off, you know, and shows what he looks like, you know. Take his shirt off without being accused of taking steroids now. You got to get shamed for looking good.
Well, the people want to negate what he's accomplished.
Of course. The fact that he's actually fighting real fighters. Yeah, granted they're past their prime, but you know what? That people are excited about it. I think it's ridiculous. First of all, who cares if he's taking steroids? Do you care?
No.
It's a celebrity fight. It's not a sanctioned match, you know?
I don't. It'd be like saying, I could build Tesla if I got low interest government loans like Elon Musk did. Just like the stupid, no, you can't.
Yeah, exactly. So dumb. They got to always have like put someone down. Yeah, he looks good, but he's on steroids. Well, you know what? If you took steroids, you would look like a fat piece of shit. You wouldn't be in shape. You wouldn't even look half this guy. This guy eats right. He trains. He takes nutritional supplements. He lives a lifestyle. He doesn't just take a shot and then he wakes up in the morning and he's got muscles and he's got ripped abs. People are so naively dumb. But you know what? I watched we got to have a segment like a Bobby Kennedy segment because this guy, we got to get this guy. He's got to be president. He's the only one who's going to save this country. I'm telling you. And I hate talking politics. You know that, Chris.
You got to get him on, Dave, because he wants to come and talk about competing in the board shorts. He said that Arnold told him he should do the men's physique, and Bob Chick said, "You have no quads. And they're going to judge quads."
They had him on the Republicans invited Bobby Kennedy, who's a Democrat, to testify on a hearing, okay, which is all the people who are going to be asking questions are the Democrats, obviously, at a hearing about free speech. Look, you and I
can't have free speech. No free speech, Dave. None. But go ahead.
The Constitution of the United States is based on the premise of the First Amendment. Number one, the most important thing that the founders of this country were putting forth is that we have to have the ability for free speech, meaning we can't be censored because censorship leads to dictatorships, okay? And that's what we were rebelling against. We were rebelling against the King of England who was trying to rule this country. We wanted to be free, right? So freedom of speech is the cornerstone of our whole nation. And that's always been the cornerstone of what you and I do here on this show, the truth in bodybuilding. We talk about whether you like it or not. Sometimes the subjects are unpopular with the people that run the organization. Sometimes they're unpopular. I don't care. We have the right to say what we want. If you don't like what we're saying, don't listen to us.
Yeah.
And that's what Kennedy is saying too. And they are trying to censor this guy because he is speaking the truth. So the Republicans know that it's going to irritate the Democrats because he's a Democrat. They invite this guy to talk about censorship because they're censoring him basically. All the Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, not Twitter anymore now that Musk has it, before Musk had it, they would block this guy and they would remove his accounts because they didn't want him talking about the subjects that were basically vulnerable, that made the people running the government vulnerable. The fact that they don't test. He doesn't say I'm anti-vaccine. What he says is that none of the vaccines are tested. They're not safety tested before they release these things. That's all he said. But they will twist his words to say that. So they get him on this panel, and right away they try to dismiss him from the panel and say he shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And they do a vote, and he's like, I'm here to talk about censorship, and you're trying to censor me. It's like the most asinine thing. So they vote that he can stay by 2 votes. He makes.
Yeah. Did they vote the 2 highs and the 2 lows like at the Chicago Pro?
So this Jewish Democratic woman is like blasting him, trying to make him look like an anti-Semite. And she's like, you said this and this and this on this date. He's like, yeah, I was quoting a stuff. She's like, I take back my time. I don't want to hear your answer. So she's basically asking him questions just to get an answer. And as soon as he's about to explain his answer, she's like, I take back my time. Like, sorry, we don't want to hear you. I took my time away. You can't talk. And so she was trying to paint him to be like this, Holocaust insensitive person, which is not the truth.
Yeah.
And he was fuming. I could tell he was fuming. And he got a lot of good points across. And he went on Twitter, which is great. I'm glad that Elon Musk, even though he's losing his shirt on Twitter, I'm glad he's got Twitter because at least he lets all these people talk. And he really is a freedom of speech, platform. They're not blocking anyone on there. And he blasts this woman and points to all these, he writes, Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Let me check this up here so I can.
Can we tell that Dave loves RFK Jr.? But take it. Go ahead, Dave.
And it has nothing to do with the fact that he's got abs.
Dave is very apolitical. So
I am usually, but
I get behind RFK.
This country needs this guy. I'm telling you, and I love Donald Trump too, but I think this guy is going to clean up Washington if they don't kill him. Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who led the Pitchfork Brigade to trying to muzzle me with false accusations of racism and anti-Semitism, in 2016, lost her post running the DNC when leaked documents revealed that her DNC staffers were routinely and cynically using anti-Semitism to take down Bernie Sanders. So they basically did the same thing to Bernie Sanders that they're trying to do to him now, making it look like Bernie Sanders was a racist and an anti-Semite. And he goes on to show that, that she not only that she refused to condemn the overt anti-Semitic rhetoric of a couple of leaders in the Middle East, but she actually helped, endorsed funding, the money to these idiots, like billions of dollars to Iran. But the point is that, at least Twitter, he's got a platform to tell people, hey, look, this is what's really going on. These people who are trying to make me look like an anti-Semite and a racist are actually the racist and anti-Semites, which is always the case, right? It's always the guys that are chasing after the pedophiles that are actually the pedophiles that are trying to cover their own tracks,
Yeah, no, I mean, no surprise there. She's just a Biden lackey, and she doesn't want, anything drained from the Biden freight train that barely moves. Wait, and of course the Republicans want to weaken Biden, so they'll invite and support. I mean, the Republicans will fund RFK Jr.'s, campaign readily with PAC money, Political Action Committee money, simply to weaken Biden too. And what's amazing is someone who's weak needs to be weakened. In other words, politically he's not as weak as, physically he's remarkably weak. So politically, he's got the machinery behind him. So that's why they had to get rid of. That's why when Bernie was catching up to Hillary, they had to pull a Tanya Harding on Bernie. And now that RFK's got traction, they're
going to try to do the same thing to him. Except he's not going to shut up. He's going to go on all these podcasts.
Well,
Rogan loves him. He'll be on Patrick Bet David. He'll go. He went on Bill Maher. I mean, he's going to keep his voice out there. And you know what? The guy doesn't just make shit up. He quotes statistics. If I never vote because I think everyone is atrocious usually. I will vote for him because I think that he's going to do something.
There you hear it. Dave Palumbo.
Biden. Listen, guys. If I can make it appropriate to bodybuilding, Biden helped pass that Steroid Control Act. He got rid of all the steroids. Look at his body. He can use a couple of steroids right now. He can use some testosterone. Look at Kennedy. If anything, Kennedy will probably legalize.
The irony. Yeah. What's the age difference, Dave? Is 10 years.
I know.
It's unbelievable. I told you when
bodybuilding lifestyle. Huh? Al Beckel should be his running mate. Kennedy's running mate. Al Beckles.
Maybe Kennedy can get the nomination and pick The Rock because The Rock had floated the idea for a while as running for president. Maybe you could pick him as vice president.
Too many egos. I think Kim Kardashian would be better. He'd probably get way more votes with her.
No, she could be the one who
She's a lawyer now, isn't she?
Well, when in the White House press room, when she speaks to the press, she can come out in Skims and the Skims outfit, which is right. And what's the craziest? Right now, if you said okay, Biden is having his press secretary is going to have a press conference. You'd probably get viewership of 60,000 if Kim Kardashian was doing a press conference for RFK and The Rock. Probably she'd put it on Instagram and The Rock would put it on Instagram and you get 500 million people watching it.
Speaking of Skims, she did a campaign with Carmen Electra and Jenny McCarthy.
I didn't remember on what?
Jenny McCarthy was a Playboy, Playmate of the Year. She was married to Jim Carrey for a while. Now she's actually married to Mark Wahlberg's brother, Donnie Wahlberg. I don't know if you knew that. And Carmen Electra obviously was hot to do back in the day. She used to date Dennis Rodman.
Yeah.
And they're both 50. I think Jenny McCarthy's 50 and Carmen Electra is 51. So Kim Kardashian's company, their Skims, said, you know what? We want to hit not just the young girls. We want to get the older women too to wear these skims.
Yeah.
So they dress these guys up. Let me see, pull this thing up. This is hopefully. Let's see what we got here. Look at these two, 50 years old, and they did the old. Remember, she's my cherry pie. I don't know who sings that, but they did this whole little thing, like basically like a flashback from the 25 years ago, and they both look great still. Ingenious.
Yeah.
Ingenious. Kim Kardashian. When she first came out, I thought she was like a no talent, as my father would say. But I think my father might have said she was a no talent actor. I don't think I ever said that. But I was like, you know what? Reality TV, whatever. Who cares about that? But you know what? They're the mother and her. They're marketing geniuses. They really are.
Geniuses. I'm surprised they even come up with some like women's nutrition supplement just to make another 100 million.
Yeah, they probably do, but you know what? That's not really unless they're going to walk around shredded all the time. I don't think they'll sell it.
No, it doesn't. It's skin.
Sell what you're good at, Chris. Didn't you tell me that?
Huh?
Didn't you tell me that? Sell what you're good at.
Yeah, I did, but they're good at everything because they can sell anything.
Yeah, but you don't take like a girl with a fat ass and you sell a shake, sell a shake and vitamin mix. But yeah, you're right. People will buy anything, but I just think it's tough. Remember when Dana Lynn Bailey, who's I think a marketing genius too, and her husband.
Yeah.
And they had all the clothing line they made a fortune from. They're probably still making a fortune from it. But then they came out with a supplement line, and no one really bought it. I don't think the supplement line did well. I know they don't have it anymore. I think they're working with that for Aaron now, but because that's not what she's known for. They were known for like cool, creative, like art.
Yeah, no, it goes back to do it. You know what I mean?
That's why people are always like, Dave, you got to get mainstream. You got to go I'm like, yes, I would love to sell Fiber Lives to the mainstream because everyone should use it. But that's not my audience. Now, if I can get in there and I have avenues to get in there and I'm working that direction, fine. But you just don't say, you know what, we're going to abandon all the bodybuilders and we're just going to go sell to the people who buy Metamucil and don't know any better. Yeah. You can't do that. You have to stick with what you're good at doing and do it well. And if you do it well enough, sometimes you will have, you'll extend yourself into, more mainstream channels. And I think that's the way to do it. Sometimes because I've seen people come up with these ideas, like, I got this great idea. Okay, I'm gonna make this thing and I'm gonna sell it to everyone. Maybe it's gonna make billions of dollars.
Maybe RFK and Kim can convince Deborah Wasserman Schultz to get into one of those Skims outfits.
See what he should have said. He's very proper, Kennedy. But he should have said you should get your fat ass into the gym is what he should have told her. But
yeah.
Well, stop worrying about whether I'm an anti-Semite and get your ass into the gym because you got a fat ass.
One little insult like that, the news would. People go nuts and he's so terrible.
The only person who can get away with that would be Trump because he would tell her right off the bat. Yeah. He'd be like, "You're fat and ugly." He goes, "That's why you're asking me these questions. Why don't you just sit yourself down?" And that would be the end of it.
In rape cases, he says, "She's not my type. Did you rape her? She's not my type." It's like, yes or no. She's not.
He would shut her up in 2 seconds. He wouldn't even answer the question. He would just completely shut her down.
You heard under oath when they asked him, right? They said, "Did you say when you're a star, you can grab them by the pussy?"
What he said? What is that?
He said, "Yeah, I said that." And they said, "Do you think it's do you consider yourself a star?" He said, "Yeah, I would say I'm a star." And they asked him to explain it. And he said, "Well, it's been like that way with stars that they could for quote, 1 million years." He was setting a precedent from back to the dawn of time that you could do that if you were a.
And he's right, probably.
But the idea that he just said, "Yeah, I said it," under oath. Yeah, I said it.
You're better off not denying it. This way, they want to catch you in a lie. Is what they want to try to do. When you admit something, it completely neutralizes, anything that they could possibly do to you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why it's good. Kennedy came out and said, "Yeah, I was an alcoholic and drug addict, after my father died.
Long time.
After my father was assassinated, and I was left, as
Yeah, most
eldest
people,
son.
most people after their father and their uncle were murdered would probably say, you know what, Dave, what are you going to do this weekend? I'm going to the bar. I'm coming. I'll meet you down there.
And he was the oldest of 11 children, Chris. Bobby Kennedy had 11. He has 11 brothers and sisters, and he was the oldest. And his father was murdered, and he felt helpless. I mean, this guy. I mean, how I can't even imagine how I would feel,
Yeah.
And it's incredible that that his journey took him all the way around at 69 years old. He never held an elected office ever. He's been trying cases. He's a litigator.
Yeah.
And he's said, you know what? I got to save this country. He doesn't need the money. People don't even understand this. He doesn't need.
I'm so pumped up that you're behind a candidate, Dave. I can't wait to see how.
I've never been this pumped up. But you know what? My mother loved Bobby Kennedy, the father.
Yeah.
My parents couldn't talk enough about this guy. They thought he was going to save the world, And when he died, I just hear my mother tell the story about how when he was killed, how saddened they were and the country was. And I can remember her saying that. And you know what? This guy is basically saying what his father said, essentially.
Yeah.
He's trying to do what his father would try to do in 1968, whatever it was, 69, I don't know what year it was. And, I hope he does it, because I think this country is falling apart.
Dave, is Arnold? I wonder who Arnold is supporting, even though he's a Republican, because he can't support Trump because they have a bit of rivalry.
Right, over the Celebrity Apprentice,
Well, just over insult after insult.
Yeah,
and so he can't get behind.
He's got to support Kennedy, don't you think?
Well, I would think so, because Kennedy is way center compared to.
His kids are Kennedys. His kids are, part Kennedy.
Yeah.
But it's funny how the Kennedy family, they don't get along. A lot of the people who were in the Kennedy family don't agree with him, because they're so nervous that he's, so radical that they have to distance themselves. But I can guarantee you this: if he's ready to run for president, if he's going to be up there on the ticket for president and he wins, all of these guys will crawl out of the woodwork and they'll be his. Yes,
Dave,
we support you
nutritionally. So because it's a bodybuilding show, kind of.
Yes.
Did you see his explanation on where the gluten sensitivities came from?
Was it the modified crops?
Yes, but you got to see him break down as a part lawyer, part biologist, part nutritionist. Where all of a sudden, how come everyone's nobody can eat gluten anymore?
Right.
And he goes into, because he tried a case against Monsanto and won, about how crops are treated, where it was previously the soil was treated, and then the crops became treated directly to kill weeds, and it led to issues where people would be highly affected by wheat. So because I always thought
it's not the wheat. It's not the wheat.
I always wondered how come everyone's allergic to wheat now? And I think some people like hypochondriacs, and then I used to think peanuts. I can't send, as you can't send to daycare. You send something, your a child to a daycare with anything with a peanut in it, and they wrap it up like it's like asbestos or something, or lead, and they put it in a plastic bag, and then they send it back and with a note that says, "Don't send anything with peanuts." And I thought okay, how bad can it possibly be with peanut allergies? And then I hear at the same, where my kid goes to school, my kid, he's 4, they had to inject some, kid because he had a peanut allergy the other day, but there were peanuts in the room, and he went into shock.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. You know why? Because this is what this guy is for. And then what they say to him when he's testified? They're like, "You're not a doctor. You're not a scientist. Where are you coming off telling us about vaccines?" He's like, "I'm not portraying myself to be one. I'm quoting statistics. I'm quoting studies that were done. That's my knowledge base." He goes, "I'm a litigator." He goes, I take facts and I present them based on studies. I don't ever make anything up. I can back up everything I say," and they don't want to hear that. We would dismiss you. We don't want to hear you speaking truth now. We don't want to hear it. Sorry.
Dave, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I'm going off on a tangent. I've been in those scenarios where just listening in a room to people critical of somebody who's in real estate, and people tell him, you don't have an MBA. And he agrees with them and says, I just went to high school. I just happen to have, $350 million worth of real estate. So I have some business knowledge.
But I hate when people try to dismiss it. There's nothing worse than having an argument with people who aren't listening to you. And these people are like that. But you know what? Once he's the Democratic nominee and he's on that stage, and answering debate questions, people are going to see how smart he is. They can't shut you down when you're the candidate.
Yeah, well, the goal, the problem is to get to any type of debate, because nobody's going to want to debate him. No one has any interest in allowing him to debate. Nobody wants him to debate. Believe me, nobody wants him to debate Biden. And all those Republicans who are pro him right now, they don't want to see him debate Trump.
Yeah, because he even said, he goes, I'm the only guy who can debate Trump because I know how to talk to Trump, but he won't be intimidated.
And Dexter Jackson, which you've warned me, never get into a debate, war of words with Dexter.
No. Speaking of, let's transition back into bodybuilding for a minute. Carlos Thomas Jr., who was supposed to have competed, several weeks back, got a stick.
Yes.
He is. He sent me a video of himself guest posing yesterday. I put it up on Arc's Muscle, and let me pull it up here. He's looking really, really dangerous.
Yeah, he looks like. Go ahead. I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, hold on. Let's put this thing up here.
Hold on, Dave. Can you still see me? I have a mild real estate emergency going on.
I can't see you. Can you see
the
video?
Me?
I can hear you though. I'm playing the video of Carlos Thomas. I don't know.
I already saw it. He looks nuts.
Oh, I mean, this guy is a cartoon. I mean, he's
cartoon.
Unbelievable. Probably the best legs in bodybuilding right now, I'd say. Dare I say they're almost too big? They're so big. He's got the greatest drop from the side, and they're like Ramy's legs,
Yeah.
Without the divots.
Small waist.
Yeah. The only vulnerability he has, and it's improved a lot, is his back. His back has got great width.
I don't think it's much of vulnerability. He looks like a, I mean, what's so vulnerable
the back
here?
lat spread
I think it looks
insane.
great.
The lat spread's insane, but the back double could be a little bit more thickness, but he definitely improved his back a lot. And
yeah,
he's going to be dangerous. Now he's going to be in that show, Chris. We talked about we're going to see a show this year where it's going to be a lot of top guys because no one's competing early in the season. We're going to see him on that Texas Pro stage with Andrew Jacked.
Yeah.
And we're going to see him with what's his name? Labrada. So it's going to be a great
Hunter Labrada. It's just like it's Justin Shire. I've been corrected. It's Hunter Labrada.
Now, Carlos has not made his pro debut yet. So this is going to be his pro debut. And he turned pro, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he took some time off here and definitely made some more improvements.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see him on stage.
Yeah, good poser here, too. Excellent. This is an excellent display of his own physique.
The funny thing is he's another Dexter Jackson. I'll tell you why, because I originally worked with him when he was in the early part of his career, and he was a middleweight, Chris. And he looked really good as a middleweight too. And then he went from middleweight, and the next year I'm like he's not going to make light heavyweight. And his father's like, what? I said he's going to be a heavyweight, and actually he wound up being a super heavyweight. So he put on an enormous amount of muscle, but that's because he trains and he eats and he lives the lifestyle. And that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
If you want to be the best.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to, I think he's going to be definitely a great talent in the future. So
yeah, what it goes to Dave. It's funny is that you never know. Only Bob Gruskin would know. You never you see like a toothpick guy in your basement. John De La Rosa, 140 pounds, and Bob Gruskin said, "Oh, Olympia," but you never know. But some people do know, oddly enough. And you probably wouldn't know if with this guy as well. You know, when he's a middleweight, like, okay, you know, he's going to gain 50 pounds.
I didn't think he was going to gain. I didn't think he was going to gain that much. What?
Dave's favorite word: hyper responder.
You know what? I don't even think he's a hyper responder, Chris, as much as he is a dedicated bodybuilder, because he consistently grew and grew and grew and grew. It wasn't like a Levrone where like 1 year he's here, one year he wasn't, 1 year he was here, and he's at the national level. No, he progressed through time, but he just did it consistently, which is something. You know, look, I wish I had his structure. I wish I had Tony Freeman's structure. But when I got into bodybuilding, I was so consumed with trying to be the best that I can be, and I know you were too. That I would have, you know, I did everything in my power. I did not miss a meal. I did not miss a workout. You know, we talked about this before, and I put on 100 pounds of muscle in 5 years. I mean, and I believe anyone can do that if they put their mind to it. I just think that most people don't have what it takes mentally to do it, which is a little bit of psychosis. Because I had all these friends that I was around in New York, in Long Island, that were living the lifestyle with me, right? We would go out to eat. We would go to the gym. I mean, there was a big group of us, but no one made, you know, the gains that I made. And I knew why no one made the gains, because I would see them. Some guys would go out on the weekends drinking. Some guys, they just didn't have the, you know, the mental fortitude to go to the gym and push the way I did. And it made me feel good. Like I knew that, all right, I was given 100% and I was getting, and the results were speaking for themselves. And a lot of people, all these guys wanted to know, you know, how can I grow? You know, how can I get this, you can't give that desire to someone. They have to have it inside their heart. Carlos has that desire in his heart. You don't have to tell this guy to go train intensely. You don't have to tell this guy not to miss meals. He's just going to do it because that's what he does, and that's why he's getting those results. And there's a lot of bodybuilders out there that are like Nick Walker's another guy like that. I mean, you could tell this guy doesn't miss meals. You know, you could tell this guy doesn't miss workouts.
It's
Branch Warren. Look at Branch. I mean, Branch was he was a good teenager. He won the teen nationals, but he wasn't like, oh my God, this guy's going to be Mr. Olympia. But he just kept getting better and better and better and better and better. And it wasn't a big gap. It was just consistently his whole career.
Yeah. No, I mean, you asked, you ever see that video where they asked Muhammad Ali, what's the most important part of your training or the entire prep of he said, not going out at night ever.
You're right. Yeah.
They asked him about the training part. He said, everyone's just the same, you know, at this level. Even though it wasn't, because he also had that quote as he only started counting the sit-ups when they really started to burn.
Oh, is that what he
started to count? That was a great quote. But the other was, not going out at night.
Yeah.
Don't go out.
Ali was taking steroids. That's why he was so good.
Yeah,
we just didn't know about it. Right? Let's ruin his legacy too. Who else was a great athlete? Bruce Jenner was taking steroids too. That's why he's a transgender now.
Yeah.
Who else? Who else is a great athlete? Jesse Owens was probably taking steroids too.
Yeah. The people Jesse Owens was running against were taking steroids.
Yeah, but we didn't even have steroids yet here. Yeah. Unbelievable. we got to find anyone who's achieved anything great and take them down a few notches. Albert Einstein was using steroids.
Well, no wonder why Dave's favorite RFK picked The Rock as a running mate. They go to the same HRT replacement, whatever it is, doctor.
Yeah. Do you have any desire to see that movie Oppenheimer that's coming out?
I'll probably see it because there's some, interest. I just saw an interview with the granddaughter the other day.
Right. Oppenheimer, for those of you who don't know, is a new movie that's out. It's about the scientist, the nuclear physicist, Oppenheimer, who they had brought in to develop the world's first atomic bomb. And funny because they got all the German scientists that were kicked out or left Germany because they were afraid they were going to be persecuted for being Jewish, and we put them we built a town for them, and we said, make us an atomic bomb.
Yeah.
They all had second, I guess they all had obviously they wanted to win the war, but at the same time they knew they were creating a new technology that was going to change the face of humanity. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's a movie I'd like to see. Barbie is not really a movie that I'm really looking forward to seeing.
You know, it's funny, they had asked Einstein. You know, Einstein wasn't any part of that, but he supported it still.
Oh, he did? I didn't know that. Yeah, I don't know the whole story, to be honest with you.
I often thought, like, you know, where was Einstein's, you know, who on Ancestry.com is only like this far removed from Joe Weider. They look alike.
But this is a true story. I wish I had a picture of the painting. I can't dig it up now. I don't know where it is. But my father had this friend, Ted Heyman, who's probably still alive at this point. Hopefully he is. And they taught together. I think that Ted was a math teacher. My father was an English teacher. And Ted used to play. Ted loved chess. So my father taught Ted how to play chess, and he became better than my father. And I used to play chess with Ted too. Ted would come. Ted had this crazy hair. He looked like, and a little mustache and everything. He looked just like Albert Einstein. My father painted a picture of Albert Einstein, like when he was in his painting things. And this picture might have been the best thing he ever did. And I said, Dad, this is the greatest thing he ever did. He was my father, you know, you build up my father's ego. He's you know, he loves that. I said, but I got to tell you, it looks a lot like your friend Ted. And he's like, you think? So he hung it on the wall in his house, and Ted comes over. I'm like, Ted, my father he painted a picture of you. Take a look at that. He went crazy. He thought my father really painted it. I said, no, it's Einstein, but it looks just like you. He tortured my father for years and years to give him that painting. He's like, oh, Sal, I'll buy it from you. My father would never part with a painting for some reason. I don't know why. He thought he had like you know, like Picasso's in the house.
Yeah.
So finally he gave it to Ted. I don't know how. They must have been stoned or something like that, because Ted used to like to smoke marijuana. They must have been stoned. My father gave him the painting and had regret after that. He would every day he would say, I should never give him the painting. I said, Dad, he loves the painting. It's the greatest gift you could ever give him. I said, he'll have that for the rest of his life. So my father made him take pictures of it so that he can reproduce. It's crazy, but it did look just like Einstein. But I got to get a picture to show you this. You'll be like, holy shit.
Yeah, send it to me. Who looked like Weider. Speaking of, did you see? I'll leave you with this, or we're spending. The Fox News was critical of Biden in a suit, and he wore sneakers somewhere, I think. Sneakers, right? I got
the shoes.
I've told you the Joe Weider story, right? About the sneakers?
No.
Oh, so like first time, this had to be like 87. I go up to meet him. I'm like, gotta go meet Joe Weider. I get there like 2 hours early, right? Drive up the Woodland Hills, get in there. It's like going to the United Nations.
Right.
And you have to wait to see Joe. And, you know, you go up to see Joe and you might not even get to see him because he's too busy.
Right.
You know? So he comes and he's got that office where it's like the office from The Apprentice where Trump used to fire people. And he comes and he walks out behind a desk, and his pants are like 9 inches too long. And he's got it's like a formal suit on, double-breasted suit. And he's got sneakers on.
Oh.
So it just... I look and I said, don't, you know, thinking like, don't look, you know, don't look again. And he said, are you staring at my pants? And he said, my effing, this is the first meeting ever. My effing tailor didn't fix my pants and I was in a rush. And I go, what about the sneakers? And he says, I got a bad back. So it's fun. He used to wear, in the office, he'd wear the sneakers with the double-breasted suits, like perfectly, you know, expensive suit. But in this day, the pants were like this far too long, and he had them cuffed up because the tailor had screwed up.
I used to wear shorts to the office at Muscular Development, and they used to make me wear pants there. They're like, you can't wear shorts in the office because none of the other employees can wear shorts. I'm like, come on. So I used to leave my jeans there, and I would just, when I get there, I would just change.
You change? Yeah.
I changed that, and I would just put the jeans on for the day, and that was it.
Yeah. Well, I was surprised that he wore the 3-piece suit in the office, but I guess, you know what?
it's in his mentality. If he projects himself as
CEO,
a businessman,
you got it, Dave.
right?
CEO. He's got it.
It's perception. It's perception. Yeah. That's what it was.
Well, that's the whole. That's why I gave you the. I mean, the pretense. The office was like going to the United Nations or to the White House. It was.
I've only been there 2 times. I think I never saw Joe. He was never there when I went there. And the reason I went there actually was because my ex, she was doing photo shoots for them. Like she was on a cover shot. And so we would go to California and then they would invite us to the offices. So I would hang out with like Jim Schmaltz and Jim Rosen, all there. And I'd see Steve Wennerstrom there. Yeah, everyone was there. It was really like a real, like, heyday. Like, all the writers were in one office. It wasn't like people wrote remotely and emailed articles in. They were in the office working. It's crazy.
Yeah.
What an environment that must have been. It must have been such a creative environment.
Oh, Dave, the library was endless with the slides and organized. Like you could say, we need a Lee Haney 82 Nationals slide doing a frontal bicep, and it'd be like all like card cataloged. Like in a library.
It's a shame. Joe sold the magazine, everything. All those people lost. Really, it might not have happened right away, but they all eventually lost their jobs. And it was the end of a heyday, really. And you know what? It wasn't necessary because Joe was obviously making a lot of money with those people working there and all those salaries. It wasn't like it was a waste. I think when these big companies come in and buy things and they start downsizing and trying to get rid of what they consider to be waste, they ruin the spirit of the company. I mean, think about what happened when Bill Phillips sold EAS and Muscle Media 2000 magazine. That was like, that magazine was that magazine was probably the most popular magazine at the time. Abbott Labs bought EAS and the magazine, and they stopped the magazine. They're like, we're not a magazine company. We don't need the magazine. But the magazine was what was selling the EAS supplements. Because
I get news for Abbott. You weren't a nutritional company in terms of, Dave, you said, why don't you go mainstream? They're mainstream that tried to take over a niche, a very successful, very powerful niche, that they had in EAS, and that was the end of them.
And this is in the late 90s. They sold the EAS with the magazine for like $350 million. So, and that was a lot of money. And
it was a lot of money.
And Abbott just, you know what? Because Abbott will make that from whatever drugs I don't even know what drugs they make, but whatever drugs they make, they'll make that in like a week, probably, from selling all the prescription drugs they sell. So they don't care. They just wanted a name recognition brand, and they watered the whole thing down, and they made these little Myoplex, RTDs that were horrible. They changed the formula. They put all kinds of junk in there, and they ruined Bill's company. But you know what? Bill got money, so I guess he didn't care. But you know what? I know when Connolly sold Metrex back in the day for $100 million, he had buyers, he had sellers regret, and he loved the money and everything like that, but he missed going to work and doing what he loved doing, and so I don't know if it was worth it or not. But anyway, congratulations to Justin Shire winning your pro debut, qualifying for the 2023 Mr. Olympia. Also, congratulations to John De La Rosa, second place. It seems like you're back on the map again, and stand along with 3 in a row, and he's definitely on the rise. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do in the future, if he can add that necessary muscle to really take himself to the next level. So it was a good weekend overall. And what are you doing? You're going to go pick some Maine lobsters? Is that what you're doing?
No, I'm going to go take the kids to the amusement park.
Oh, okay. That sounds good. My kids are all sick with strep.
Yeah, before that strep throat rises up the East Coast and we get it. Take them out.
Not only with my kids have, my wife has it. So now I'm like just saying, oh boy, here we go. I'll be the next one to get it, So far, so good. All right. Guys, thank you for joining us as always. And as we say every week, with Heavy Muscle Radio.
The truth hurts.
Sure does. We'll see you again next week.